MMA Roadshow, episode number 420. That's right. My name is John Morgan.
I'm fucking stoned.
Cold coffee is with me. We're firing up the Cypress Hill. 420. That's a pretty good little bong there. I like that. That's good bong water.
You know, I might have done a few of those in my lifetime to be able to mimic. Once or twice.
Yes, it is episode number 420. Now, had it been episode number 420 on 420, I would have probably have to say we'd have to give in at that point. We'd have to just fire it up. Instead, we were sitting here at the Link. That's what this is called, right?
Yeah, the Link Hotel.
At the Link Hotel.
Yeah, because if we were at the Casa de Cold Coffee, I actually got some. We got some. Never mind.
It's totally legal.
Oh yeah, it is.
It's totally legal.
Yeah, we got vape pens.
We're not getting tested.
Yeah.
We're not getting tested. In fact,
we're out of competition.
You know what?
We're good to go.
We were celebrating in the state of Nevada. The Athletic Commission here is actually about to just remove testing of marijuana entirely from the state's coding.
That's been
much needed.
A long time coming.
Much needed. Yeah, we'll see if we can get you out of there at some point. But yes, we just wrapped up a wonderful media day here at PFL. 2023 PFL 3.
That's
It'll be
it.
The first fights for both the lightweight and welterweight divisions, and we'll definitely talk about that here momentarily because I thought we had some pretty good interviews today. Pretty solid media day. I know you've been at a couple of these now. This is my first one for this season, but it was fun. Do we know why they're doing it here at the Link? Are all the fighters staying here? And
they are staying here.
So the fights are staying at the Link, but then the fights are at the Virgin Hotels. Which is the same place the UFC was.
I imagine cost.
Probably just room rates.
Room rate and the
conference space.
I mean, they got plenty of conference space over there. I'm imagining probably between the two of them, this is maybe just cheaper between the other one. But
there's nothing wrong with saving costs.
Logistically, it's probably easier to get to the theater over at the Virgin than here because this is right smack dab in the middle of everything.
And we're getting a ton of construction right now. We were just kind of talking about that. For anybody that doesn't know, Las Vegas right now, obviously there's always a little bit of traffic around the Strip and that sort of thing, but they're repaving everything for the F1 race that's going to be here in November. So they're tearing up all the roads, and they have to lay them down to a certain specification. And so I know a lot of people are very excited about the F1 race coming here in November, but I know there are a lot of people right now that are a little frustrated with the amount of construction going on.
Yeah, I mean, I dig it. I think it's kind of cool, but yeah, I mean the crazy construction shit's been going on. And that coupled with the whole fact of the whole I-15 corridor stuff that they've been doing, just traffic around here is just absolutely nuts.
Yep.
So, yeah, when they said that they were doing media day down here, I was like, oh, how much do we really want to go down there?
And that is the reason we are not at the Casa de Cold Coffee as much as we'd normally like to be chilling at the expansive grounds and maybe having the beverage director drop us off a couple of frosty beverages. We just decided, you know what, instead of piling into rush hour traffic and trying to get back over to your place, let's get this done here. And so we set up in an empty conference room.
Now it's empty.
With the backdrop is still there, a very lovely hue of blue there with all the fine sponsors. As he punches Chance is on there. Bruce Buffer's brand.
Way to go, Bruce.
Yeah, Bruce Buffer staying involved.
Just for Men.
Bose, TNNS, I've never heard
Marines.
of. I don't know what that is. Marines. They got Bud Light, Geico, Celsius Energy Drink, Air Force Reserve, Next Level. Shout out to all the PFL sponsors.
Yeah, good shit. Which one was it? Bud Light that just got shot up by Kid Rock?
Yes.
He's so crazy. But that's a whole nother discussion.
We'll get into that.
That's a whole nother discussion.
I want to preview a little bit of the PFL, but I have to talk about it because it happened right as we were getting ready for this media day to start, and maybe it was because they knew it was episode number 420. The Diaz brothers had to get involved, and we've got Jake Paul and Nate Diaz August 5th in Dallas, Texas, by the way. I'm a little bit excited about that because that means I'll go out there and see my family anytime there's a big event in Las Vegas. But I don't know.
You're going to go to it?
In Las Vegas, I should say. Yeah, no, it's in Dallas. Yeah. I mean, if it was somewhere else, because I haven't really been covering these kind of crossover boxing, but I will say, and I guess that's why I want to get kind of your reaction to this because this one, so some of Jake Paul's fights have intrigued me. Some of them haven't. Some of them I haven't cared about at all. This one, I'll admit, I do care about the involvement of Nate Diaz. I'm into this one.
I mean, there's always, for all of them, there's always been some sort of like a bit of a wow factor, just at varying levels. This one for sure, in terms of if there was a guy that people have talked about for a long time, having great boxing skills and good hands and toughness, it's definitely been Nate. But just like I said, people have been talking for a long time. This guy's been in in the sport and fighting for a long time.
Yes.
I would have rather this sort of matchup with a younger cat happen 10, 12, 15 years ago.
Yes.
It certainly follows the template that
Yes.
Jake's been doing, finding a side worthy opponent that's either recently retired or long time retired, it seems, and still doing this stuff. I mean, I'm not happy about the size difference.
Yeah, for anybody that doesn't know, it is 8 rounds and it will be contested at 185 pounds.
Yeah.
Which Jake Paul will be cutting down to that.
Cutting down.
And obviously Nate Diaz, I imagine that's probably about where he walks around at, maybe.
Yeah, or he's going to be straight smoking and going to buffets and then just like, because I wonder, I think there's the part of him, of course, that he's going to give his all when he gets in there, but regardless, I mean, I think Nate just understands this is a big fat payday.
Huge payday.
Is he gonna treat this at the same level when he was hungry to get a title or do whatever? I don't think he cares whether he wins or not. He wants to put on a good show and he's going to go out there. I don't think he's going to he's not going to quit, but does he, at the end of the day, is he going to be sad when he's looking at his bank account and say if he loses? He's not, So do I think he's going to put the same effort of where he was early on in his career, when he was trying to rise up the ranks in the division? I don't think we're going to get the same preparation, and I'm fine with that. I mean, this is a guy that recently retired. He wants to have some fun and make some big paychecks, and this is a great chance to do this. So, I mean, I'm not going in with any expectations like, because one, we've had so many letdowns. It's like I don't need the MMA guy to win. I want him to go out there and have fun, and I know he's going to do that. But also, I won't be surprised if he doesn't look at peak form, because in my opinion, he's probably just going to do his thing and then show up and give 100% of what he's got at that time.
Right.
He's
going to put on a show. He's going to make the pre-fight entertaining. You know
right.
what I mean? He's going to do all the
He'll
things
talk
that
the
he
talk.
does. We've seen it over and over again, man. He carries an audience with him, man.
Yeah.
It's incredible the way the fans rally around Nate Diaz. I'm interested in it, but I was looking to see if I had seen any opening odds yet. Now this is a boxing match that had been talked about for years and years. So I'm sure if odds aren't, I can't find any right now. I'm sure they're probably ready to launch them immediately, because this is something odds makers have known was going to happen for a while. But it sounds like from the hesitancy in your voice that you're probably echoing the same sentiments that I have, that this is a tough assignment for Nate Diaz.
It's real tough.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to put my money on it right now, as much as I love Diaz and I love everything he does, he's coming in as the underdog in this. I mean, and it's just size, youth.
Size and youth is a huge part.
I mean, it's big. I mean, it's big. I mean, but in terms of toughness and who, if pushed against the wall, is willing to push themselves to the end, he's got Jake beat in the terms of heart by spades. He blows him out of the water.
100%.
But that doesn't win a fight.
Yeah.
He's
got to avoid trouble early, right? That's what I think, is not get hurt early.
And the same thing when we saw the last fight. I mean, Jake stays busy enough that he starts adding up points. And then it felt like even with Silva, it was a little too late. He started putting it on afterwards. In terms of Silva actually finally starting to get things going. And that's the kind of thing. I don't see Nate going out there and just trying to push the pace. I see him just kind of,
that's not really his
picking
style.
his shot. It's not his style, and that doesn't bode well for what we've seen Jake be able to do. And then, let alone if you're going there against a bigger guy who's going to be trying to come forward. I think Jake's going to probably go in there thinking, well, when was the last time I've seen him knock anybody out? And I think he's going to probably go in there thinking that he's already fought harder punchers than Nate.
Right.
But the thing about Nate's style, what tends to get him the wins in a lot of MMA, it's all those little shots building up.
Right.
But you got to stay busy to do that,
Yes.
And in this format, it just, I don't know. I mean, Jake just, again, I mean, I just don't think he's going to come in there worried about the punching, and I don't know. It's a tall order. I mean,
I agree.
I definitely think Nate, if he doesn't come in as an underdog, I would be surprised. But I wouldn't be surprised if on a fight like this that the bookies do some weird shit with the numbers, and I wouldn't be surprised if the numbers fluctuate. Of course, the MMA people are gonna want Nate and gonna say, "Oh yeah, this is legit, the best guy that we've seen him up against." I mean, Silva had some great fucking hands, so I mean that's tough for people to try to say, just that Nate easily is the best hands out of anybody that Paul's tried to go against. But in terms of this fight would have been a hell of a lot different had it happened 10, 15 years ago,
100%.
when you got a much younger, more sprite, if you will, Nate Diaz than what we're seeing,
And obviously, if it was a mixed martial arts contest, you'd favor Nate Diaz all day.
All day long.
All day long.
All day long.
But it's a boxing match.
Better than any of the other guys, probably, just in terms of, his wildness. But, I mean, we've seen him start bleeding recently and other stuff. I mean, that's the kind of stuff in boxing that can get a fight to end.
Right.
I mean, if he opens up, if Jake's able to open him up and say he just starts bleeding from past scar tissue and all that other kind of stuff, boxing won't let it go as far as like some of the MMA guys. And I don't even know. I mean, if they, depending on how good the cut man, should something happen, you almost got to be extra good at what you do in boxing as opposed to MMA, because MMA, they're used to bleeding. They're used to a lot of other stuff. We've seen people practically lose half of their blood. And we just saw the fight that just got put into the Hall of Fame with Rory McDonald and Lawler. Like, that fight was just, I think everybody in the venue smelled like the blood on the canvas and stuff. In boxing, if it got to even a tenth of that, the fight's off.
Yep.
It won't happen. So there's all these little weird factors that, you just kind of wish that the fight would have happened earlier before a lot of things. But, good on Jake for staying with the template, and I'm happy for Nate because Nate's going to get another huge paycheck. And
well, that's what I really love about this. If you read the press release, Nate. So first of all, both Jake Paul and Nate both refer to Nate going back to the UFC afterwards. Jake's like, hey, I'm going to beat him up and then send him back to Dana. Nate's like, hey, man, I'm going to take care of this kid and then I'm going to go get my belts back. But I love that because, I think about like the position that Francis Ngannou's in where it feels like the bridges are burned, you know what I mean? And I understand there was some tense negotiating along the way, some hurt feelings and all that, and I get that. But I love the fact that the way Nate is doing this, it seems like it leaves the door open for him to come back. Because really, we know we got to see that Conor McGregor fight at some point. Like, we have to see that fight happen again. And, maybe they end up doing it outside of the UFC and they try to do it on their own promotion. But I think if you can have the UFC involved and the machine that they are, it's good. But the way that he handled this is it leaves it open for them to come back and do it again. And I think that is, I don't know, man, that to me is just shrewd business work to be like, hey, I'm going to go compete outside of the UFC, but I'm still going to maintain my relationship with the UFC, and I'll come back and maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't end up going. Maybe this payday is so good and it opens up doors for other offers that he never goes back to the UFC. But I love it, at least for now. The door is open.
Yeah.
The door is open.
Yeah, I think he did a great job. Even that last press conference that he did, I mean, he was, if there's ever a perfect gentleman version of Nate Diaz, that last presser that he did on his exit, I thought it was probably some of the best Diaz comments and presser stuff that we've ever got, and that kind of made me sad. I was like, where's this guy been all these years?
Right.
Like, we would have loved to actually hearing like heartfelt Diaz instead of the F you guys, I'm just doing this so I don't get fined Diaz.
A couple of those along the way.
Yeah, we'd definitely had a few of those.
Maybe you had to wait once or twice, a little past the scheduled start time.
I mean, I realistically don't see him coming back to the UFC, but if the door is there for a bargaining chip, I just don't see. Because I mean, where do you factor him in to try to bring him back into the mix? And depending on how much time goes away, I think that ship has sailed.
Yep.
Whether or not there's an opening, or whether or not Dana's finally said, no, guys, he's done, and whether he hasn't said that or anything, I just don't see, because even if he did come back, I mean, as much as I love the dude, he's not going to be we saw recently while he was still in there.
Right.
I mean, he's not beating the guys at the top of the division to get near the title. So it's like,
no.
Do you go back? I guess if you go back just to get big fights and get money, I get that. But I mean, he didn't seem all that happy while he was there because he wasn't getting these. I guess he wasn't upset that he wasn't getting title fights. He wasn't getting the biggest key matchups that he thought would bring him the money.
Right.
But who is that now currently in that division?
Well, we got to see the Conor fight again.
But that's it.
That's it. But and to be honest with you, though, I want to see that. Maybe this is weird because maybe it shouldn't matter, but like
that's one fight I want to see from Conor.
Definitely want to see. I want from both those guys. That's one fight I want to see from both.
Because when I think about Conor, I'm like, there's nobody that I'm like pining for him to see him fight. I mean, I'd like to see. Jose, but Jose's gone. I would have liked to have seen that fight because I would like to see him have actually another chance to see if that. But if he got starched again in seconds, I'd be like, well, just not meant to be. But this is another one I would want to see. But again, besides that, I don't care if I don't see.
No, I gotta see that.
Fight in there again.
I want to see that fight, and I want to see it happen in the UFC. Like I don't know. I just feel like it's. I mean, if they were to do it, I mean, again, and I've heard a lot that they've talked about the possibility of promoting it on their own or doing it with their own organizations.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have Real Fight Inc.
I'm not opposed to that.
McGregor Sports and Entertainment. They could come together, but you know how like the events just don't feel like the same. Like they don't quite. They don't.
Yeah.
UFC's a machine, right? They got the whole process down. They got it oiled and good, and it just feels big, And then you come in and somebody was trying to save some money on lighting, so they didn't get the good lighting rig, and it just all that stuff happens, and it ends up not like feeling right. You know what I mean?
No,
but if they can pocket a lot more money, then pocket a lot more money.
I mean, if that's what makes the fight happen, I'm like, hell, let them do it. I mean, if that's the way that they can get the biggest pay money, I mean, honestly, like I've joked about time and time again, in terms of like actually being at an event, half the time I'm stuck in a room smaller than the room we're right now watching the fights on the TV. Like, I don't care. I'm sure they would light it well enough that the fighters could see each other across from each other in the cage or the ring or whatever they should be fighting in.
I just think about like Chuck and Tito, right? Like when Golden Boy did that event. Now, granted, Chuck and Tito were in a different place in their career than Nate and Conor are right now, so maybe that was part of it too.
It definitely was part of it.
It just didn't feel big. You know what I mean? It just didn't feel big.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't.
I guess
Golden Boy was kind of like iffy too. Like even them, I just don't know. I don't think they knew how to properly market those dudes.
Right.
And I don't even know if they were really avid. Were very avid and even trying to reach out to the MMA media. I think they just assumed it would happen. Or not media, but the MMA fans. They just assumed, oh, hey, if we put them on a card, people will show up.
If you build it, they'll come.
If you build it, they'll come. And it's like, well,
not really.
Maybe if it was 10 years ago or even further than that, maybe it was 20 years ago or something.
Yeah, they had to convince people that they could still fight at that point.
Yeah, I mean, that was the point where, like, are they even going to get cleared, to fight? So that was kind of weird. But, I mean,
maybe it's not a fair comparison then. That one felt like such a letdown to me, and I'm just so afraid that Nate and Conor are going to come together and it's going to feel like that, or it's just like
But I mean, on a fight like that, I guess I personally I don't need a big, I don't need a lot of fanfare going into it. I just need to see them in the ring and give them enough time to do damage against each other.
Just give them both a microphone a couple days before, and
it'd be cool to see them actually get on the scale, make weight or whatever. But honestly, I don't even need to see that. Like, I would like to just see him fight. Same with this. I mean, Jake's done some crazy, some of the weigh-ins and some of the other stuff that's leading up, we're riding on horses in one show and doing other things with his giant robot and all this other stuff. I can't fault the guy for, adding a bit of spectacle in it. I don't know if he understands that the guy opposite of him in this fight is not going to be playing too well with a lot of this shenanigans and stuff I think that Jake's used to doing, and maybe he's playing for that and hopes for some of that. I mean, because I think the first time he shows up with a robot and he expects to try to intimidate Diaz, it's not going to work.
Right.
And it might be kind of a little bit iffy when you see Diaz's crews hop up there and beat up on the robot. I'm like, yeah, it could be interesting. So when I think of things like that, I think it's going to be absolutely
like some baseball bats to the robot,
dude. And I mean, like, it's just some poor dude putting that suit on, and it's like this guy has no idea. I'm like, if I was the robot, I would stay as far back and away from these dudes. Don't gesture. Don't even take the robot head and face them, because you're going to look at one of them wrong, and then it's on.
Hand them a couple of joints and let them.
But I tell you, and one of the things too, we've seen multiple of these things. Even when Askren, when it was Woodley, other stuff. Paul had his crew out by him.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't. I don't think he understands the difference of his crew and what his boys think are hard and what's tough, and then like Diaz boys and like the lifestyle and like the brotherhood that those guys. It's night and day. Like if shit popped up between camps and like teams, the old Disney crew is going to have a bad day. They're going to be seeing all kinds of flying elephants and fairy princesses and stuff flying around. Because these dudes they're hardcore, man. They're a different breed, man.
Yep.
They eat together, they live together, they literally put their lives on hold to be there for each other. And it's times that I've joked, I'm like, man, where one goes, all the 40 other ones go. But it's like, that's how thick these dudes are.
I mean Dana White, who has been around this a whole lot,
Yeah.
hasn't, for the last 20 years, canceled a press conference because even he realized, like, uh-oh,
This is gonna be bad.
this ain't good. Like,
Yeah.
we gotta go.
And I mean, that's the kind of thing that I hope, because I can almost see where, say, if Jake understands that and he wants to put a thing, but it tries to be sneaky and like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say we can only bring 2 dudes, but
then
then
I'll bring my whole crew.
then he brings his whole crew. I could see Nate just up and leaving,
Oh,
and
100%.
just being like, "F
Nope.
you," like you're not gonna do me wrong
Not
like
gonna
that.
put
You're
up with
gonna
that
bring your
stuff.
dudes, and I'm gonna bring my dudes. But what would be kind of cool about that is because if his boys, I can only just imagine his boys just working their ways in through the side doors and getting to the back of the back of the seats, and then see something wrong go, and then just be like, oh, okay, you're gonna try to do that to us, and then shit pop off. So see, when I think about stuff like that, now I'm getting more.
Now you
upset.
want to come to Dallas.
But this
Now you
one
wanna
more
come to
so
Dallas.
than any other one
I
because
agree.
this in terms of because that's the stuff when I watched before I'm like, man, I wish somebody had their crew there to just shut fucking Paul's crew up.
Right.
This crew is when it comes to MMA crews, this is one of the best ones
Right.
in terms of like
I mean,
they don't give
we
an
saw that
F
firsthand
about anything.
with Ben Askren, right? You remember because we just happened to be standing around that
Yeah.
Ben was like
On his own.
He was having a conversation and we could overhear him. It wasn't meant for our ears, but we could hear him, and
Yeah.
he was like, "What the hell's going on?" Like, I just went to a photo shoot and I was like by myself, and he's rolling in there with like 10 guys or whatever.
and
Like,
they had
that's
told him not to bring.
They told him not to bring anybody,
Yeah.
and Ben was like, "Okay." They said come alone, so I came alone. Meanwhile, he's in there with like 10 dudes. Like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. So
So I mean, if the blueprint's been laid out, then yeah, I would say like don't trust anything. Just bring your boys. Have them be close proximity.
Yep.
But no, I mean, so things like that excite me about the fight. But that's the build up,
I know.
in terms of the fight.
It's a tall order.
It's a
Tall order.
very very tall order. But it doesn't mean it won't be fun. But I'm again at the end of the day, Nate. I think even the last fight we saw him in, I felt like was there not just to collect a paycheck. I think obviously he wants to win, but in terms of like how hard do I think that he actually went into it like 8 weeks out?
right.
I think he did what he normally does, and then probably hit it hard a couple weeks probably before, made sure his weight was good or whatever. And we're probably going to see the same thing here, where he's going to work on his timing of his hands and
Maybe
other
since
kind of
it's
stuff.
boxing and since it's post UFC or whatever, maybe.
But I imagine he's been enjoying himself a lot because it's post fighting career,
Right.
And I mean, I imagine this kind of like with Floyd when he does these exhibition ones.
Oh my gosh.
We know he comes in ready to fight when it's the day up, but do I think that Floyd's hitting the gym
No.
for weeks and weeks
No.
on end out? No, and I'm assuming that Nate's going to treat this like an exhibition, but it's a professional bout.
Jake's not.
Yeah.
And Jake's not going to treat it that way.
Jake's going hard.
Well, I got the date circled on my calendar. Like I said, it's in Dallas. So anytime I can get back to Dallas and see family to go along with a business trip, I always like
You
to
gonna
do
take the
that.
whole family out there?
Yeah, take the whole
Yeah,
family
makes
because
sense.
it's a chance for my kid to see his grandparents and stuff like
Yeah,
that. We
makes
could go
sense.
stay like one day at my dad's, one day at my mom's. So, yeah, definitely look forward to it. All right, I want to get your thoughts on this because I haven't been able to pick your brain about this, about where you stand in the fallout of Israel Adesanya, and not the performance, because the performance was fantastic. Reestablishing himself as champion, showing that he's got some knockout power in his hands. I think a lot of people thought he was going to have to outpoint Alex Pereira, but obviously that was not the case. How much he was playing possum against the fence, or how much he was really hurt, I think is up to your own interpretation. I to me thought he was actually hurt when he got the 2 shots landed, but then he made fun of the kid. And it got brought up in the post-fight press conference. And I will be honest, when he said it, it was like, "Who did you make that gesture?" He's like, "Well, then I found his kid." And he's laying it out on the mic. I am like, "Wow, you are a jackass." You know what I mean? And I was thinking about my own kid. I mean, obviously as a dad, I'm like, man, how do you make fun of kids? But I'm not gonna lie. Since that night, talked about it a little bit on the and a half, and I didn't try to persecute the guy and say, "Oh, classless individual." I was just like, maybe you don't need to make fun of kids, right? But I was like a little uncomfortable. But I'll be honest with you, at the time, that night, I had totally forgotten about that original footage.
Yeah.
And then once I went back and saw the original footage, so here's where I stand now. If after that original footage, so I went back and watched the original footage, and I'm like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about how his kid just fell, like right there, like hits himself with the bottle or whatever and falls down.
Yep.
Like that's pretty shady. And then I saw some people pointing out that not only is that what originally happened, but I guess Alex at some point in the build-up to either this fight or the last fight showed that, like on his Instagram or whatever, and like kind of brought it back to light and was like, haha, look at what my kid did, ha ha ha. So at that point, because I always say race,
Fair game.
race, religion, family, leave it out of it. But yeah, you just said it. I think the fact now let's say that had happened, right? Let's say the kid had come in there, fallen down, done the thing, and then Alex had come out in the week afterward and been like, hey, just really want to apologize for the actions of my child. You can tell he's a young kid. I'll explain to him that this is not okay, and we promise you it'll never happen again, and sorry about that.
Yeah.
If that had happened, and then Israel had done what he did and made fun of him, I'd say, bro, he's a kid. What are you doing? So,
Yeah.
But the fact that he did it, there was no apology ever issued, and not only that, it was doubled down on at some point along the way.
See, I didn't realize he brought it up during fight week.
Fair game.
Yeah,
Fair
to me
game.
that kind of makes it more fair game. I mean, I certainly me personally, but I'm kind of a shithead. I chuckled when I saw it when I heard it what happened.
I was like, bro.
I mean, it definitely was a bit cringy, but I mean, honestly, I mean, the kid. I remember stuff that I did when I was, whatever, 5 years old, 6 years old. So I would have been in was it 5 years old, 6 years old?
Yeah, that's kindergarten.
So I was kindergarten. I remember shit that I did. If I did some stupid stuff like that in the middle of an arena, I would think my dad would put me off to the side and whip my ass and be like, dude, you look like a jackass out there. What are you doing? But if they took it home and celebrated and probably was like, oh, he's so funny, and then I bring it back up during the fight week, I would expect that, hey, it's fair game, And it wasn't like he said it to the kids, like, I didn't go physically close to the kid and make the kid whatever. He was like 30 feet away, pointing at him,
not like
doing whatever.
intimidating him, like right on top of him or something, where the kid was like fearful for their safety or something like that.
I mean, who knows? And then, I mean, I know some people are like, oh, but and the kid was clearly upset because
of course he just saw his dad got knocked out.
I mean, it was cool when you see that one side angle where you see like when Alex had him up against the cage and was hitting him, and you see the kid jumping up and down, and then you see the hits that bring him down, and then you see the kid drop. I mean, that's a lot of range of emotions. Who knows how much he even actually really was there? But I mean, at least caption also. You would think that if Izzy pointed, the kid actually was looking at him and seeing everything. But I'm not gonna jump on Izzy. I mean, and be like whatever. I mean, especially now that you say that the guy brought it back out.
Yep.
I mean, was it a little petty? Yeah, pretty petty. But
but
he wasn't right.
But I give it a pass.
He's not as close as to me to you and be like, hey, you little fuck,
right.
And doing anything. He didn't threaten
the
kid.
Didn't go physically intimidate him.
He didn't even say the kid's name.
Yep.
He just pointed at the kid, and that they had that connection because they understood it. And I'm fine with it. But
I am
whatever.
too.
I guess
think
I'm a dickhead,
game. No.
But I mean, like, I'm like, yes, he was a kid, but I remember when I was that age, I was still wise enough to know that the shit I did had ramifications.
Yep.
And again, it was playful. He was like, you played the game, the guy played it back at you.
Yep.
Who knows? And I like that, like I think how you even phrased it in anime, if it was an anime story. Now that kid's his story arc has been created.
That is funny.
And in 15 more years, he's going to be challenging Izzy somewhere, in a street fight, and Izzy will have to honor that.
That would be some
per the rules
that would be
of
some
anime
straight up
life,
anime movie shit right there.
Izzy will have to honor the match because he's like you challenged my honor. You hurt my father, and then you disgraced my family when you did whatever. He's like, I challenge you to one-on-one combat.
That was pretty funny. Even Izzy had to kind of like laugh at that, like, "Ooh, wow, yeah, you're right." You know what I mean? He kind of laughed. But yeah, you know what?
I didn't cry. I mean, I know everybody immediately wants to run to Twitter and start putting their own like, "Oh, I think it's a travesty." One, cool, good. Who gives a fuck? You don't need to go on to Twitter. Just be upset and then get on with it. It always cracks me up that everybody feels like they need to, run to Twitter to, be the first to say, "Oh, I think that was terrible." Somebody liked my thing and then agree and comment. I'm like, bro, I get it, but whatever. I mean, the more that you drag it out, the more it makes it bigger than what it was.
Yep.
It was in a heat of the moment. Izzy still, like you could tell where his head was. I mean, he was still, so emotionally moved by the moment. Walks across the cage, and then I think there was that moment where he was like, "Oh shit, yeah." Let me go back because he had been thinking about like, man, if I get the win, I'm gonna just rub it in that little fucker's face, But, who cares? I mean, he's not doing it right now to a kid that was 5.
Right.
He's doing it to a kid that understands the thing. So he's not yelling at a 5-year-old kid now.
Yeah.
It's
however many 12 or 13
12 or
kid
13
now.
years old, kids in middle school or whatever. The kid understands the game.
I
People
agree.
need to stop thinking that he's yelling at a 5-year-old kid. What the kid did, yes, when he was 5 years old, is he took it put that inside of him, and then had his boogeyman beat him again after that point had happened.
Right.
So he was waiting for his part of the story to go, and he was telling it to this kid, but the kid's a teenager now. I mean, like, everybody's yelling at him like Izzy's busting the chops of some 5-year-old kid. The kid's not 5 anymore. When he did his thing, he was, but still, I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm a dick. Whatever.
I'm not. Look, that's where I stand now too, man. The night of, I thought again, and I wasn't the guy that was saying, oh my gosh, what is Israel saying? This is ridiculous, because I understand, but the night of, I was like, ooh, I don't know about that, bro. Like, making fun of a kid. But then when I thought about it, and reflected on it,
old.
He is 13. There was never an apology made. And again, it was brought back up. So I think it's fair game. I think it's fair game.
And it wasn't the worst thing. If the world's going to die because of what Izzy did to this kid in a little payback,
now, again,
there's much worse things.
You made a good point. Had he ran out into the crowd and got up on him, where now the kid is physically scared.
He was physically scared. He never called his name. He never said whatever. He just pointed whatever. I mean, there's much more real shit that people need to be upset about, people doing shit to kids out there, than what Izzy did to this 13-year-old, 13-year-old kid.
Weird stories in the news about that stuff. But,
dude, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. All right.
I think this young boy will be okay.
I think he'll be all right.
I think he'll survive.
All right. The PFL season will be getting underway. The UFC is going on as well. I know you've got, you got Nolan King out there in Kansas City?
Yeah.
All right.
MMA Kings.
Nice.
Boy, his camera's been messing with him. Poor guy. He was a ball of stress. But what I love about Nolan he grinds, man. He does his shit. But when he got on site, tested his gear. What an idea!
Wow,
what a theory!
Did he
was messing with his gear just to make sure everything was good, and he started seeing that there was some
a good example for people.
Yes,
don't wait till you're at the event.
Don't wait
to
till
test
you're
your
at the
gear
event
out.
to test your gear. There's shit always happens, and his camera's been acting up and doing some weird stuff with SD cards, so it was not reading. At one point, it wasn't firing up. It's and he was freaking out, and this is 12, 14 hours, 16 hours before an event. Imagine going on site and then having it to the point where something's not working out, and then not being able to reach somebody to hey, talk me through this. But he did it. But his camera is giving him some issues. But I want to give him props, because I was like, dude, good on you to check your shit out, because not a lot of people do that. I mean, how many times do we come? I mean, people forget stuff. People forget little things. All that sort of stuff
don't
happens.
Have a memory card. Don't have a battery.
But if your camera doesn't work and you show up and all of a sudden you're like, well, when's the last time you fired up your camera? You're like, oh, well, last event 2 weeks ago. There might be something wrong with that.
Good example for the young ones out there.
Yeah.
Props on him.
And that's a reporter.
Yeah. Props on him. Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen out there. I'm intrigued by this fight. Obviously, won't be covering it, but we'll certainly be watching it on television. This to me, and I know you and I were here at this media day, and we'll talk about PFL in just a minute, but I just want to get your quick thoughts, because I know we haven't had a chance to really see all the footage that came out, but I saw some of the quotes that were coming out about Max Holloway saying, hey, I'm still very much focused on getting myself back to a championship opportunity.
The weight cut looked rough. I'm looking at this picture of him. Ooh.
Not looking good at 145.
Let me show you this picture.
Oh, whoa, yeah, that's Max Holloway looking a little rough. Maybe that 155 title might be something a little bit more worth chasing overall. Well, I want to ask you, because to me, this is this to me.
Let's just blame the camera. That's a bad
you
camera shot.
You said the camera wasn't working real well.
Yeah, the camera did him wrong.
Look, this is definitely a number one contender fight for Arnold Allen. I just don't see any other way around it. This dude has been on this extended win streak. Getting a former champion underneath your belt would be phenomenal. It would certainly get him to be into the next championship fight. Now, as far as Max Holloway, I don't know that it stands as the number one contender fight. Certainly, if Yair Rodriguez could find a way to upset Alexander Volkanovski, I imagine that opens the door for Max Holloway. But you've also got to imagine, too, if Yair does beat Volkanovski, Volkanovski's going to get an instant rematch, right? I mean, he always granted the rematches to Max Holloway. He's been a phenomenal champion, so you got to think that he will get that. So I don't know that this necessarily acts as a number one contender fight for Max Holloway, but it is crazy to think how young Max Holloway still is, as long as he's been in the game, just because he started so young. So I'm intrigued by this. I don't know what the stakes are necessarily for Max Holloway. I feel like it is a number one contender fight for Arnold Allen, but in terms of who you're picking and who you're thinking, I'll be honest with you, just knowing as good as Arnold Allen is, and I feel like I'm disrespecting him here, but I just have a hard time picking against Max Holloway, man. I feel like this dude, outside of Alexander Volkanovski, is the second best featherweight on the planet, and I'm having a hard time picking against him. But I know there is that time, right, in every career where the young kid comes up, and it's the next wave's time, And is that time now? I guess that's what we're about to find out on Saturday. But where does your intrigue stand on this bout? And man, are you thinking that this is Arnold Allen's time to ascend, or is Max Holloway still the one?
Man, it's tough, man, because I agree with you completely. Allen's been on this just crazy sort of like rise towards the top, and he's kind of been doing it, not under the radar in a sense, because I think the people that know who he is and understand what he's been able to do have kind of been seeing this guy do his thing,
But he's not a big trash talker.
But he's not a big trash talker. I mean,
not a big social media grabbing headlines.
Yeah. And there's something about that. I think what people that love good fights just sort of gravitate towards this dude because he brings it when it comes to fights and he doesn't talk a lot of trash. But man, in terms of like, I do agree with you. I mean, it's going to be hard to deny if Allen can get through Holloway. It's going to be hard to deny him the fact that he should either get next or this. I mean, I don't know who else would be the number one guy to compete against. I mean, I just feel for Holloway the stakes are much bigger in the sense of, do you stay in the top 5? Do you stay? Where do you kind of stay? I mean, I wouldn't see him going below the top 10, but then you start questioning, is there still a place for Max at the top? Because, I mean, if you can't beat the champ, and now if you get beat by the guys that are now vying for the title contender spot or getting that next title shot, and I'm not trying to like retire Max or whatever. I mean, I just wonder what other steps could there be, because if he can't get through Allen, I start wondering, is it maybe time to? Is there another move to make, or is it the time to kind of step away?
It's
and
crazy because Max is
31
years old, 31,
yeah.
but his body's been through some battles.
Yeah.
He started so early because I can't remember if he was 19 or 20 when he came to the UFC, but he was a baby when he came to the UFC.
I feel like we've been watching him forever.
Yeah,
But you're right. I mean, like just like you said, I mean, he's been through battle. He's been through these wars. I mean, and when we see that greatness of Max, I think it's funny because this is one of those fights you almost hope. And I picked Max because I assumed that this would be one of those ones where the Max we all know is in there shines because he understands that if he wants to get another shot, that he has to keep knocking out these top guys. But he's had lots of shots against Volkanovski.
I know.
And I just don't see the UFC rushing back for that, I mean,
I was almost surprised they made this matchup, to be honest with you, because they do get put in. And it's a weird position to be in, right? Because you're not going to give Max Holloway another shot right now.
You just ran the risk of killing a contender.
That's right. And so how many times do you repeat that type of matchmaking where you're like, we got a guy that's almost there. Yeah. Well, what if he beats Max? Well, what if he doesn't?
Yeah.
Then what do we do?
Could just put him in the Hall of Fame and let him go out. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, 100%.
He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. But, I mean, if he wants to keep fighting or whatever, I just wonder if there's other moves. If he can't get through Arnold Allen, I think those decisions within his camp and his team need to figure out what makes sense. Are we happy just staying near the top of the division, staying in the top 10, getting these paychecks? I think Max in his heart wants to be the champ again. But then you just start running, who then do you have to go back to get back even to a contender spot? How far do you... I don't think the drop is far with a loss here, but...
No, he's still right there at the top, but you just start wondering where do you go and how much is your motivation, and do you want to beat several guys to get back to the top, or do you try lightweight again and see if that maybe it goes better for you the second time around? Obviously, when he went up to face Poirier at 236, I think we all thought, whoa, he does not look big enough to be a lightweight, but maybe that's changed. I mean, that was also 2019, so maybe the body has changed a little bit over the last 4 years or what have you. So it's an interesting one.
And you see this pick. I mean, he looks really, really drained. And I was kind of reaching out. I was like, dude, is this just a bad shot, or I mean, like, what's going on? How's he looking? He doesn't have facial hair, so it's kind of throwing everybody off. But he said he looked pretty drained, and his voice started cracking on his second and third answer. So he's severely dehydrated already. And
it's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday. That doesn't bode well. That's going to make the rest of the week extremely hard, and that's going to make being able to recover and perform at your best really, really tough. I'm doing the math in my head. I'm probably going to switch to Allen at this point. And there's no. I mean, I'm not saying that. That's just me trying to not use my heart.
I know.
Because my heart wants
Heart's
Holloway to win
all day. Who's not a fan of Max Holloway?
Yeah,
everybody's a fan of Max Holloway.
It's just when you see things like that, and at some point you just can't. I mean, they always say you can't bet with your heart, because obviously, we'll homer on Max all day long. But man, if he's hurting like this on Wednesday, that's going to be iffy. It'll be interesting to see because they still got a press conference to do. So I guess we'll have to see how that works out.
Are they doing a press conference out
there?
Oh,
no. It's not a pay-per-view.
Nah, they're just doing it.
It's
not a pay-per-view. Just on ESPN.
God, just a fucking fight night.
Just a fight night. Crazy, man.
That's even right there. Just kind of like makes you like, wow.
Crazy.
But he's still the main event. But yeah, that doesn't bode well though. I mean, I guess we can't really look into that stuff too much. That's just us doing MMA math and trying to put weird factors. But it's hard to not pay attention to that sort of stuff. If you're already severely dehydrated and you still got days to go, that's not good.
It's not good.
That's not good. I would understand if it was like the night before, maybe when they're in that last stretches or something. That just shows that he might have. And, I mean, this is the problem as fighters. Like you said, he's not even old. But as they get further on, it just gets harder and harder to get down to that point. And at some points, just depending on your body, you'll see them do everything that they've done before, but their body just doesn't want to play right. It doesn't want to give up those excess pounds.
It changes.
So they do everything that they can to try to get those numbers.
They make it impacts your body. It impacts everything about you.
And it's weird because they're like, we're doing everything that we always do. We're doing everything the same, and something just doesn't happen. And there's always weird other little factors that come in. Sometimes even just the hotel setup is off. Say there's not a proper sauna, that they have access to, and if that's part of it, it kind of throws it all off. So then they start doing weird balancing acts and another. Okay, well, if we do this, we can maybe make up for it, and then things start to show. But yeah, to see that right now,
media day imagery is a little bit concerning.
It was a bit it was kind of hard to see. But again, that's just because you love Max. I'm like, man, you hate seeing anybody that you respect and appreciate looking rough before they're getting ready to get into a fist fight.
100%.
And especially against a kid that legit has stakes to be one of the possible next guys vying for a title.
I mean, his motivation's not going to be questioned. Tough one. All right, we'll see how that one plays out.
Now?
I know.
Did I make myself depressed?
I think it did. I can feel the energy in the room.
I'm depressed now.
Like, oh man. All right, that'll be on ESPN. I'll say. Card on paper looks like it could be a lot of fun. Edson Barbosa versus Billy Quarantillo in the co-main event. Dustin Jacoby versus Azamat Mirzakhanov. Tanner Bozer versus Ian Cutelaba, which could be crazy. Pedro Munoz, Chris Gutierrez could be a lot of fun. Clay Guida never in a boring fight against Rafa Garcia. Bill Algio's on the card against TJ Brown. The fight that I just do not understand why it's on the prelims, Brandon Royval versus Mateusz Nicolau. I do not understand. Look, I'm one that doesn't really care too much about card structure. I know a lot of people, like, they just bitch and moan about, why is this here? And sometimes there's different reasons. It's like, well, they want it to air in prime time where this kid is from, and it's come. But this is an American and a Brazilian, both in the top 5 in the flyweight division. It's on the prelims. Maybe it's just because I don't know. That one I don't understand. Zach Cummins and Ed Herman is on there, which is crazy, man. Ed Herman been around forever. Jillian Robertson versus Pierre Rodriguez. Lando Venata, always fun against Daniel Zellhuber. That could be a lot of fun. Bruno Brazil against Denise Gomez. Aaron Phillips versus Gaston Bolanos. That could be a lot of fun. Jocelyn Edwards versus Lucy Pudilova. That could be a lot of fun. They both like to scrap. So I really do think we're in for an entertaining card on Saturday in Kansas City. Fortunately, I'll be watching it from my office, and I'll get to enjoy that one and take it in. Meanwhile, Friday night here, PFL continues on. It is the 3rd installment of the PFL's regular season series in 2023. The first series happened in Las Vegas. They'll go out to Atlanta later this year, and then, of course, they'll have their playoffs and finals, which I have not seen all the details for that announced just yet. But this wraps up in Las Vegas. A site that they say that they plan on coming back, whether it's every year or, just here and there they say don't expect this to be a one and done for us. And I like to hear that because I like as much MMA in Las Vegas as I can.
Yeah.
And the PFL seems to be doing good things. So they're doing kind of an interesting card setup. The first 5 bouts on Friday night will be on ESPN and ESPN Plus. And then the final 7 bouts will be just ESPN Plus. So it's kind of like they're almost doing the main card first, and then they're doing what would be kind of, I guess, the rest of the card. I don't want to call it like post-limbs. I know they like to really say, and it is true, it's one of the things I like about the PFL. All the fights are kind of connected to each other. So as they say, like every fight matters. It's so it's not really a preliminary card and a main card. I did hear somebody, I believe on staff, refer to this as the overcard. And if that is an official term that they're, I'm hoping that is just something
trying to put one
this
over
person made up. Yeah, because overcard we're not making that a thing. But basically, your headliner will be Olivier Aubin-Mercier coming back after his championship-winning performance and taking on Shane Burgos in his PFL debut. It was interesting, right? Because today we talked to Shane Burgos, who he's moving up a division. Of course, this is going to be lightweight now. He's not fighting at featherweight. And he explained very openly, he's like, look, there's just no way I could cut down to 45.
He was always a big featherweight anyways.
Big featherweight, right?
Yeah.
He said there's no way I could do it. But I got to say, man, him at lightweight, dude, this was like a different human being, Shane Burgos. Like he's always a nice guy, right? But, but he's always just like on fight week, it's just the energy's not there, and you just think like the focus isn't there, and it's just incredible how much 10 pounds can make, because that is by far the best mood I've ever seen him in on a fight week, and he seems to be in a really sharp place.
100%. But man, across the cage, OAM looked as super focused as anything, man. That's going to be a tough matchup for Burgos. But Shane's always been super tough. I mean, both these cats are as tough as it comes. I mean, you know what you're going to get in this, and that's going to be a lot of just in-your-face throwing down. Somebody's going to be bleeding. Somebody's going to walk out. Somebody's going to probably go out on their shield. But yeah, I mean, I thought Burgos looked great in terms of, like, yeah, he's one of those guys that, again, I think this is because he always seemed big at the division he was at. He just looked more fuller in the face. He looked happier. He was smiling. He was joking. Part of that, too, is, I mean, it's the start of the season. Everybody's, for a lot of these guys, so they're all 100%. They haven't taken any damage.
It's opening day, dude.
Yeah,
everybody's got the same record. Everybody's got that feeling of, hey, I can. It is cool, right? Because I mean, everybody really does have the same opportunity to. Hey, if I can rattle off 4 wins here,
I did like his mindset. Yeah, I liked his mindset as opposed to OAM's like it's brand new, whatever. He wasn't wanting to sleep on his laurels. But I liked how Burgos is like, no, I'm going against the champion. The guy that just won the belt.
Yep.
So in a sense, 2 different mindsets. Like one guy, is trying to stay hungry by saying, no, I'm starting at nothing. I'm not going to look at the past season. I've got to work for it so I can get another one. You got the other guys like, I can't take this guy lightly. I'm going against like the number 1 guy right from the get-go. So you got to come out firing hard, and his body's feeling 100%. So it's really, really neat like that, and we've seen that across different guys sort of embracing one of those 2 like chains of thoughts. You got one person that's like, yes, the past is the past. Yeah, I might have won, took that $1 million check, but that was last season.
Right.
Like this season, everything's brand new. We're all on the even footing. I'm not defending anything because it's brand new. I think that was one thing that Sadabu had said when we did the media day at Extreme Couture.
Right.
He was treating it like it's a brand new season. The past is the past. Everything's like whatever. So it's just really, really cool. And I mean, like that, but that's a huge fight. I mean,
big one.
It's big.
So technically it's number 5 out of 12, but it'll be kind of the main event on ESPN, and then they'll get to the others. But Olivia, it may be worth watching as well. Olivia Aubin-Mercier.
Main event of the overcard, is that what it was?
It is the main event of the main card, and then Sadabu C and Jarrah El Salawi, that would be the overcard main event. That's the overcard headliner. All right, we just made it a thing. It is a thing now. It is the. No.
I'm just confused. I'm just trying to get it working in here.
Overcard. Somebody got to work on it. But Olivia Aubin-Mercier, I thought this was interesting, and I think it just goes to show, and it was backed up by this. So Olivier Aubin-Mercier says, look, he kind of thought about retiring after winning the $1 million. He's like, I won the title, I won the $1 million, and you kind of wonder, like, do you want to keep doing this, right? And it is a unique challenge because in no other organization do you win the title and then you got to come back and start at the bottom of the mountain, right?
Yep.
You're not going out there and defending your belt. It's opening day, and it is like a team sport. You're the defending champion. I mean, maybe they have like some kind of scheduling ease or something, but you basically have to go out and do it again. You don't get
Yep.
to go defend your title. The Super Bowl winner, the World Series winner, the Stanley Cup winner, right? On game one, they're tied with everybody else with 0
Yep.
points, and so you heard OAM say that he kind of thought about maybe I'm done, but then he kind of said that he kept training and he realized how much passion for it, and so he got back into it. But he concerned me a little bit at first. I'm like, is his head totally in this? But House Manfield said the same thing. He was like, because he won 2 seasons ago, right?
Yeah.
He was like that dream scenario, the Cinderella story, wasn't even supposed to be in the tournament, won the $1 million. And he straight up said, last year I realized, he's like, for the first time in my life, for the first time ever in my life, I didn't have to worry about money. He was like,
That's
I bought a
awesome.
house, I bought cars, like
Cars.
I got nothing. Like, I have no need for money. And he's like,
Yeah.
and so I went into the season last year thinking, hey, I'm just gonna, I'll go out and fight and have fun and I'll get it done. And he's like, and that didn't work. So I had to go back and get my edge back. And I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting. I think it's kind of tough for these champs, and I think it goes to show, when you see the guys that have won it a couple of times, you look like an Natan Schulte or something that's won it, even Kayla Harrison before she
Yeah.
got upset, how difficult it is to go and repeat it, because you kind of get to the mountaintop and then you got to start over again,
Yep.
and is the fire still there? All those things. I don't know. I think it's interesting. So OAM scared me a little bit. It was backed up by what House Manfio had said, but I think by the time OAM got done, he made me feel more like, no,
Yeah.
I am in the right frame.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's got to be that's a nice problem to have, having that money and then deciding, hey, is it enough to stop? But then you pay a bunch of way in taxes and things, and then you're like, huh, that million's not really a million, is it?
It's not really a million.
But no, I mean, I think at the end of the day, we've seen multiple guys reach the pinnacle, and then start to wonder if the challenge is enough. Is the challenge still there? That desire to rise to that challenge again.
Yeah.
When you've been fighting and working for something so long, and then you finally are able to enjoy the fruits of your labor, you kind of want to take some time to actually enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Right.
But again, this is a sport where time doesn't. The more time that passes, it's harder to just keep this sort of thing. So it's like if you want to keep doing it, you got to keep doing it now.
Well, and Kayla Harrison used to mention this a lot too, and OAM kind of put it out there today. It's like, not that it's an advantage to not win the previous season, but like, remember, us that were in the finals, we had to fight in November. So anybody that didn't make the finals, like, they haven't fought since like August. So
Yeah.
they've had plenty of time to rest, relax. Even House Manfio, who didn't make the playoffs,
Yeah.
said the same thing. He's like, look, I was devastated, but at the same time, he's like, I had some injuries that I've never taken the time to get healed right, and I was able
Yeah.
to do that. So it is. I mean, it's a grind, man, to win this thing, and you got that opportunity to win $1 million, and it's life changing. It's not quite $1 million that you get
Yeah.
to take home once the tax man's done, but it's still.
You still get that
More-
big paper check that says $1 million on it.
But you still got more money than you've ever had. That's
Yeah.
for sure. And then, but then it's that grind to come back and do it again. And
Yeah.
and you've got the quickest turnaround of anybody in the tournament.
True.
You've got you were the busiest last season, so your body's been through the most. So I don't know, man. It's a challenge, but I've become a fan of this PFL format, man. I really have. I felt, and I've said it before, but I'll just say it again. If you haven't watched the PFL before, watch a card. Now, I will say sometimes they get a little bit criticized for their pacing, and it does. I think this one should be better because you got 5 fights that are on ESPN and ESPN Plus. Remember, when they're on ESPN, they usually have broadcast windows that they need to fill. They have
Yep.
commercials that
Commercial
they need to
breaks
fill.
and all that other
Once they
stuff.
get to ESPN Plus, they can just kind of go,
Yep.
and I'm hoping that's what they'll do, because some of their cards do seem to drag out a little bit. But the way that when you watch a card live, every fight relates to the other fight, because it's like, okay,
Yep.
well, he got a decision, he got 3 points. Oh, but he just got a first round
Yep.
finish, so that's 6.
Yep.
And it's not like a UFC card. There may be 7 divisions represented or whatever, but it doesn't really change anything. You know what I mean? This one, everything changes in the card. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of neat, especially because the PR team sends out updates sort of after the events happen, so you can kind of see where the standings happen. So I mean, that stuff really makes sense, and it builds up, as the season goes on. Every time a fight happens, it's neat to see the real the real sort of ramifications of previous fights. You know, where you feel like on some UFC cards, you're like, yeah, I know this guy beat number 4, but there's no guarantee that he's going to get the fight 3, 2, or 1 after that because number 8 might be a great shit talker and skip the line. When you have the point system, when it starts getting the end, there's no skipping the line.
Yep.
You know the people that are in the season. You know the people that have the possibility of making it into the finals. And it's really cool. And in terms of like watching the broadcast, I love the use of the screens, the backdrops, the walkouts and stuff. It's just really, really neat. And visually being here in the room, when we did the PFL 1, just being in that space and actually getting to see the walkouts with the use and with that nice cool video screen background and all that other stuff.
Man.
It's so neat.
Yeah.
It's super, super neat. It kind of reminds me of like the old Pride stuff. It reminds me of some professional wrestling stuff, just the use of the screens, and it's very, very elaborate, and it just looks really, really cool. So there's some really neat spectacle stuff that I think the PFL does really, really well.
Yeah.
You're right. Some of the pacing on some of the nights can just be a little bit slow, but honestly, I mean, it doesn't bother me. If the fights are good and there's a little bit of a long break, it doesn't bother me.
Right.
You just need the fighters to deliver that, you know. But in terms of like the spectacle and how it looks, I love the way that the setup of the backdrop. And you're going to see more of that because I'll be at the ceremonial weigh-ins, which are going to take place tomorrow.
Right.
The officials will happen in the morning, and then the ceremonials. And even during the weigh-ins for that, you know, they bring them out from the opposing flanks and stuff, and they got the names and the backdrop and all the other stuff. And it looks it's cool. It looks very, very cool. You know, so in terms of that, you know, some of the stuff that you get, I appreciate the UFC in the sense of I know exactly what I'm going to get on those weigh-ins. It's down to a T. But in terms of spectacle, I kind of like the screens kind of pushes it over the edge for me when it comes to the PFL ceremonials. It's just neater.
Yeah.
It's just neater. It's just more production value. I don't need to see octagon girls up there to make the stage for me. Like the cool background and then just seeing the fighters face off is what it's all about. You know. So I almost have to tip my hat to the PFL ceremonials.
They do a good job, man. They really do, man. It's a good looking product on TV. I mean, you can make fun of some things that they do, like you know the kick speed or whatever and stuff. But I mean, they're just trying, man. They're trying to bring some kind of statistics and some kind of how do you measure, how do you evaluate? You know, I think what do they call it, the phantom cam or whatever, where it's just like, bro, it's just like a depth of field thing. Like we got it, you know. But it's cool, right? I mean,
how dare you?
It's so funny.
The phantom cam.
And they got to use the exact language. You got Sean O'Connell there. He's got look at the phantom cam or whatever. Like, come on, man. It's just a camera, but still. But I appreciate what they're trying to do, and it's a little bit different, man. And I think that's what everybody is figuring out, man. I think all the other organizations realize, like, look, if you're just gonna do UFC light, it's not going to work. You know what I mean? Like, there's not that. So if you got to do things a little bit different, you got to present it in a different format. You know, you get, again, when they first launched, I thought the point system was going to be kind of gimmicky and was going to be like, come on, what are we doing here? But I really like the way the standings work and everybody controls their own destiny. And it's cool, man. We talked to Stevie Ray today. By the way, he was in good spirits, man, was really hopeful about his young daughter, of course, that there was the big fundraiser for as well. She's set for surgery. Before his second fight, he gave shout out to his family for really holding down the fort and allowing him to focus. So he said, hey, for anybody that's worried that it's a distraction, like, it's not. And he was really thankful of everybody. In fact, even thanking Dana White, of course, his former employer, who came in with a $10,000 donation. And then,
that was cool.
So pretty cool of him. I think he mentioned even Sean O'Connell. I mean, put in like $4,000, which is
awesome.
Really, really cool as well. So good for him. Clay Collard was here. Clay Collard has been in some very, very exciting matchups in his time in the PFL. He is must-watch TV, man. He is as exciting as a fighter there is on the roster. And he said he's totally changed up everything and is ready to really do some damage this time around. So Sadabusi, as you said, was back as well. The defending champ has moved full-time. He was kind of came to Las Vegas last year, and as much as he misses Sweden, as much as he loves being there, he just kind of said, man, the recipe was good. It worked. How can I leave here? You know what I mean? How can I go away when this is what clearly helped me get it done last time around? So he stayed out here. So I thought it was a good media day. Good turnout.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm bummed I only got to do one of the three events that was in Las Vegas. I was so excited when I heard they were doing a 3-fight run, and then ended up having scheduling conflicts for two of them.
Like, whose fault's that?
I mean, you guys think that was Yeah, but I was a little bit. But hey, listen, the scheduling conflicts, decisions have to be made.
It's a good problem to have.
It is a good problem to have. So anyway, I'll be tuning in on Friday. Again, I like it too. Even whenever it's Bellator, whenever it's one championship, whatever it may be. I really like it when the major promotions aren't going head-to-head, and that's what we have this weekend. We got PFL
awesome.
on Friday, we got UFC on Saturday, so you can take it all in, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, weekends of fights like that are fun, and then we all get to relax on Sunday.
Because I hate when they're overlapped. When they're over, it's just hard. It's hard. I can't. I know some people have like multiple screens open and stuff, but like I can't focus on more than one at a time.
Yeah.
Like I just don't. I mean, I see the results, but I'm not really like processing what happens. It's like I can only really watch one at a time to really take it in.
And especially if we're having to participate, like there's a lot of times I'll put another event and we're in the back of the room, and then we're expected to watch a UFC fight to understand what we need to ask the fighter that's coming out to interview, while trying to peep on another screen. It never works out. It just ends up just becoming a blur. You don't get to take any of it in. But in terms of like this, being able to be able to pay attention on Friday and then see fights on Saturday, makes it good. It's gonna be a good weekend.
I love it. I'm looking forward to it.
Two good cards.
Two really good cards. I think it's gonna be. And again, I think both these cards are gonna be exciting. So I think we're gonna have some entertainment value. Certainly for all the folks over at Patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow, we appreciate the support over there. For the little $3 a month, you can sign up and help support the show. Obviously, that helps us out a ton, and we do the exclusive and a half episodes over there after every UFC event. Now, I won't be on site for the UFC card, but obviously we'll talk about what we see on television. Maybe if we can get a little news and nuggets from the Cold Coffee Squad, that he can hear from our man Nolan King, that pass along any nuggets and tidbits. But I do kind of enjoy those as well, because then I actually get to see the broadcast on top. Because a lot of times I'm talking about a card, and people are asking me questions later. Hey, did you hear on the broadcast this? Did you hear on the broadcast that? And it's like, no, I actually didn't. So this time on the and a half, we'll get to talk about that. And, of course, we'll talk about PFL and what we see there as well. So
yeah, and I apologize. Somebody sent a message to our Roadshow Facebook, and they had a question. I apologize. If it's still timely and it makes sense, I'll try to get it, and maybe we'll answer it in next week's show or something like that. I feel bad. We're really bad on paying attention to our Facebook one. I don't really go on there that often. So if you send a message there, I would either or maybe it was through the website. Well, I apologize. Somebody sent a message to us somewhere, and I meant to write it down.
Blame it on Cold Coffee.
Yeah, but it was my fault. But we'll get to it. We'll get into this week or something.
We had the communications team over at the Casa de Cold Coffee.
I'm gonna sit them down when I get back. I'm like, how dare you not give me my Post-it notes before I walk out? And
that's the communications team.
It's supposed to give me a Post-it note, but I apologize. We will try to get to that question. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate whether it be Facebook, whether it be on the website, whether it be Patreon, obviously through Patreon, because we love you mofos the most.
Yes.
But appreciate you guys reaching out to us, and we'll try to be better, paying attention to some of that stuff and getting you questions answered and stuff like that. But I guarantee you send a message through Patreon, we will not miss it.
We'll see that one.
I just don't. I'm barely bad at checking out the Facebook, and I know on our even our own website, I get sent those messages, but I just forget about them.
We'll be better.
We'll be better.
We'll talk to the communications team and really make sure they streamline the processes. Some things are getting kind of messed up there. All right, well, listen.
They're going to get lashes when I get home. Just get them good.
Thank you to the PFL team for allowing us to use this room. They're actually asking me when we're done. So they didn't break down so that we could use this room. I mean, I know. Isn't that nice of them? So kind. They were like, take your time, but let us know when you're done so that we can break down the room. I'm like, you could have just broke it down while we were talking, but that's the kind of kindness that we get from the PFL team. So thank you to them. We highly recommend you check out their product. We highly recommend you check out the UFC as well. And, of course, check out the and a half episode on patreon.com/MMA Roadshow. I'm going to go jump in traffic right now. Go try to get to my kids' jiu-jitsu practice.
I might delay it just a little bit more. I'm going to edit this podcast here and then see if traffic dies down a little bit.
Stay out as long as possible.
I know, it sucks.
Oh, well. We deal with it. There's hardly ever traffic here. Once it's all done, then we'll get to see an F1 race here. I'm going to be interested to see how that
Are you going to actually
out.
try to go get tickets?
No, have you seen how expensive those tickets are?
I was like, are you really?
Oh, no. Somebody
would be
give
better
me some free
like
tickets.
trying to get off on the side of the road just to watch them like, hey, is that a car? All right, that's cool. How long do we wait till the next time around?
Oh, they're expensive tickets, man. Some of those hotel packages that they were putting together for F1 is crazy,
is it?
Man. Yeah.
It's crazy. That makes me laugh. I got a message like Hilton Honors is one of the hotel clubs that I know you. I'm sure you remember.
Sure.
They sent me a message the other day, and they're like, "Thank you for being a member. You ever thought about vacationing in Las Vegas? We have deals that come." And I was like,
You need to update your records, please.
Do you not read the profiles? I'm like, I'm good on the Vegas. But yeah, I can imagine that hotel stuff's going to be crazy through that. But should you guys want, I can work on Airbnb for slightly $1,000 a room. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want to put that out because somebody will take me up on that. Actually, my niece and her boyfriend are big PFL. What is it again called?
F1.
F1.
Yeah.
He's an F1 fan, so I might let them come out and do that.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go there with them. I'm like, go on.
You can stay here, but you just
can
get
stay
my
here,
tickets.
but just go. Yeah, go on. So, but yeah, no, it should be interesting. It should be interesting, but
awesome. Well, a Las Vegas home game this week that's not taking place at the UFC Apex. Kind of unique situation for us. So we appreciate it. Hope everybody tunes in Friday night, Saturday night, and enjoys their weekend. See all y'all over at patreon.com/MMA Roadshow this weekend for the and a half. And for everybody else, just thanks for listening.